it depends where you are in life and your purpose. So like with me, my purpose in the beginning was because I was starting a fitness business. I'm going online. I needed a lot of media. And I needed to show people veganism is healthy. You can be ripped. You can be like, you can look like me. Being that lean, it's not that it's hard. It's just that when it comes to my personal goals, the sacrifice was my personal goal. And I'm just being really transparent here. I feel like for regular people, like it really depends where you are. Like, I don't think it's necessary to be shredded all year round. You have to have a goal too. Like, what's your goal? Like, when you're going on this bulk, like how much muscle are you trying to build? Like, everything should be planned and structured.
All right, welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what the show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Korin Sutton, who is a 3 times pro vegan bodybuilder, U.S. military vet, author, speaker, master fitness trainer, and founder of Body HD Fitness, which has some incredible transformations. Brother, how are you doing today?
Everything's good. And yourself?
Good. Excited to have you on.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, man. Truly appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Well, the name of the podcast is Fit Vegan, and I see all these trophies behind you. Dude, how long have you been bodybuilding?
Man, I want to say over a decade by now. Yeah, over 10 years.
And so what came first, veganism or bodybuilding?
Veganism came first before the bodybuilding. Yeah.
Okay.
So
How many years ago was that?
that was 11 years ago. So I was vegan
Okay.
first and did that for a year. And then I jumped right into bodybuilding right after.
So what was the motive towards like transitioning to veganism?
Mostly for me, it was, it pretty much all started when I was in college at the time, and I was in, I think it's called, public, public speaking course. And Gary Roski actually came into my classroom to do his speech about
Yeah,
veganism. It's called like the best speech ever on, you can find it on YouTube. He actually
I've heard
came
of it.
in,
Yeah.
yeah. So I actually saw him live, he actually walked into the classroom, did the same exact speech that you'll find on the internet in my classroom. And that's what pretty much set the bar, because when I saw his speech, he definitely convinced me, because we were learning about persuasive speaking, and
Yeah.
he persuaded me. I was just like, oh man, I've never seen someone so passionate about a diet and a lifestyle. And I didn't know, I never heard that side of like farming, because obviously in my mind, I thought farming was different. I think a lot of people do. And
Yeah.
even to this day, people think like farming and animals are not sentient. They don't feel pain. They get treated nicely. And, and what sucks today versus now is because we have the internet. And even though there's so much truth out there, like you see the documentaries putting it out there, showing the truth,
Yeah.
like you have a lot of people who's promoting meat, and like one farmer just has to show like a cow being treated nicely, and then the individual who consumes meat would take that and say, that's where I get my meat from, knowing that,
Yeah.
just to make yourself feel good about it. And I think that's what's wrong. That's the problem with today, because I feel like everyone is, everyone's nice. Everyone don't want to do harm, but we don't want to actually know like what we're doing is directly creating harm. And I think it's a big pill to swallow. To know that. But for me, like I I took it as it is. Like I've been in war before. I've seen the worst side of people. So once you go to war and be in the military, it's like nothing surprises you after that. You know what I'm saying? So So for
I
me, it was
bet.
easy to take in and see that side of animals or what's going on, and that's what pretty much helped me transition into it a lot better because it was just a reality check. It's just like, hey man, this is the shit that's happening to these animals, and this is what you're doing, and I didn't know, and when I knew, I was like, all right, well, now I know what can I do. So I tried it out, slowly transition. It took me time. I went pescatarian first and
Yeah.
started losing weight, started looking good, feeling good, and a majority of my, and when I went pescatarian, I didn't do no eggs, no milk. It was all plant based, just the fish from time to time for protein. But the more I
Yeah.
learned about the diet, the more I started eliminating fish out of my diet because I didn't see any purpose to have it in my diet anymore. And then eventually, excuse me, I was eating a full whole food plant based diet because at the time there was no like mock meats and stuff like that, so it was like the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And from there, that's when I realized, hey, it's easy, it's simple. Like I feel better, I have more energy, more mental clarity, and I know I'm doing something that's not directly harming animals, like from the animals I used to eat. And that's it. I mean, I just continue to go with it from there.
Yeah. Well, so many things I wanted to add. Like, yeah, I agree with you. People see the picture of the cow on the
Hmm.
carton of milk, or just they see a little commercial of a really happy cow, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they're all well treated, and they all come from this place." And it's a bit of disillusion. And as much as like, especially with social media now, people can see inside of the factory farms, they're
Hmm.
still, I guess, choosing not to keep this image in your head. And they
Yeah,
choose to keep the image of the happy cow and that they're not causing any harm because I think that's people's nature. They don't want to cause harm at the core.
yeah, yeah. I believe so too. And and it's easy to. I mean, if I really, I know how hard it is to change for normal people. It's pretty difficult to change something because there's so many ties to it, and I had to go through it myself. Like like holidays and parties and gatherings and going out
Yeah.
with friends and family. Like I understand,
It's
trust me.
cultural.
Like yeah, it's very cultural. So understand why it's such a big. It's hard for a lot of people, and people are so against it. But once you get over that, like it's pretty simple. I mean, it doesn't stop me from hanging out with the friends I used to hang out with. I mean, I think I actually made more friends and have better friends because they're more in me. I was always into health and fitness anyway, so for me,
Yeah.
actually, it kind of like narrowed in to more friends that was not just vegan, but really into fitness and really into taking care of themselves. So it kind of like helped me even surround myself with better people. Not trying to say like vegans are better than other people, but I mean,
Let's clip this video.
but but I mean, but going down that path, I mean, I found some like enlightened people, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about like making that transition, the holidays and all these things are can be challenging, but I'm curious for you, how was that shift in identity from, we talk about like you need meat to be a man and whatever, especially coming from the military background. I'm going
Mhm.
to assume that like that identity was kind of reinforced. So how was that for you to kind of change that and go the opposite direction?
I mean, for me, I never had food to really identify me like that. Like, I mean, I joke about it, like even in the military, we would joke, like, but it wasn't like literally, So it was
Yeah.
like, so it was just like, yeah, man, yeah, but nothing,
Yeah.
nothing like to that extent. Like, yeah, like if I don't eat meat, who am I? It never got to that extent. Even the military friends I have till this day, I still talk to them. Like they all respect me. You know what I'm saying? Like they're my friends. Um,
Yeah.
I went to war with them and stuff like that, so they know like I'm legit. Like like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing to prove. And dietary preference has nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? It's about what you have in here, and what you actually done in the military, and people know I put in my work, I put in my time. I was a respectful leader. Um, I did my part to the best, so it was never really a significant identity thing. I feel
Yeah.
that online it's different because like that's the only thing I could say is like from my experience, like I have people who try to challenge my identity and my
Yeah.
sexual preference from my diet, but I don't pay
That's
attention to
interesting.
that. Yeah, because I'm like, what, you're going to base it off a 30-second reel? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, so I know it's nothing. I don't even pay too much attention to it, but I never really went through that issue, but I know it is a problem. And the only thing I could say that I've ever experienced when it came to like when it comes to that is probably like the soy thing, 'cause
Yeah.
I remember when I was in high school, I went to GNC and I was about to get soy protein powder just because it was cheaper, And I was
Yeah.
like, looking back, I was like, yo, this thing has high protein. And the guy was like, oh, that's for women. You don't want to take that because you'll grow gyno. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, try this muscle tech. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. I remember Muscle Tech. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the only thing. And I stuck with Muscle Tech and the GNC supplements for a long time until I realized that, oh, that's BS. You know what I'm saying? And then I was like, and
Yeah.
obviously once I went vegan, that was like one of the first proteins I was doing, like soy protein or the brown rice protein, because there was no good protein companies out there at the time.
Yeah.
So like, and both of them taste like straight cardboard,
Yeah.
So I remember downing the brown rice protein, putting stevia and sugar in there. I'm like, man, if it's this, I'm like, whew. I had some bad protein powders, but man, this, I was
Yeah.
like, this might be a little rough.
Dude, it's so funny because I've been vegan for I'm going on 10 years now. So around the
Mhm.
same time that you kind of went,
Yeah.
so a lot of those products and types of protein didn't exist. So people
Mm-mm.
complain about the protein now being chalky.
Yeah.
They don't know what it was like.
They don't know how it's like before back then. I'm like, bro, the vegan, the vegan product stepped up by a lot in such a short period of time. I was like,
Yeah.
because like you said, like, man, the brown rice and soy proteins, woo, they were not good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's
I
straight
would
up drinking
literally hold my
cardboard. It's
nose
true.
and just chug it down. But a lot of protein powders wasn't that great back then, if you kind of think about it, because I remember like, I don't know if you remember, but you remember the I think it's like Metrex, the Big
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
That thing was just a cardboard candy bar. Like, it's like 50
Yeah.
grams of protein. You saw all the bodybuilders doing it. I was like, man, I want to be big like them. I used to buy that thing. I was like,
Yeah.
man, this bar is
Dude.
trash. Like,
Yeah. They tasted gross. There was it was like the company All Max. They made like a
mhm.
mass gainer. I can't remember. It was like, I can't remember what it was. But dude, I remember just taking those bulking shakes, and
Yeah.
one of them was called Incredible Bulk, and it
Hmm.
came in like a gallon jar that you like feed horses with, and
Yeah.
you had to put 4 scoops of it, and that was like 90% of your shaker, and you just had to put a little bit of water and like shake it,
Oh,
add a
yeah.
little
It
bit of
was so
water and
thick.
shake it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. I used to do the max gainers too back in the days too. Yeah. And it was
oh
so
yeah,
hard on your stomach. Like,
yeah,
I was like super bloated, and I thought that was normal. I was just
yeah.
like, I was like,
Yeah, he's like,
oh
all those
man,
bodybuilders have a big stomach. I have GH gut, but there's just you think it's because of the bloating.
yeah,
Oh yeah, dude, I spend so much money on those supplements. Yeah, and
yeah, me
I think
too.
that's when like the like not to go down that road, but like protein farts. I think like that's when it became a thing. When like
Yeah,
all of those products kind of came out, because that like no one was able to digest that shit. It was so terrible.
mm-mm. Yeah, it was so bad. 'Cause I remember I used to have stomach pains, and I'd be like, oh, I guess it's just part of it. Like,
Yeah.
he just settled and you just like, it's just part of it. It'll go away in an hour.
Let me just suffer for a little bit because I need to get my protein and my dextrose
Yeah.
in. So I'm curious, like how much protein are you consuming now, and how much were you trying to consume back then when you're on those like mass gainers?
Truthfully, I mean, back then I wasn't even counting. It was just
Just as much as
just try,
possible.
yeah, as much as possible. There, like you saw protein, meat, you just eat it. So
Yeah.
I just remember being in the military, like any type of meat, I would try to add that into my diet as much as possible. Um, so I couldn't even tell you if I knew unless I was tracking, but I know like now about like at least about 185, sometimes 200. Sometimes I hit the 200, but usually like average 185 right now.
Yeah. Which I can assume that's a lot lower because you had a mass gainer plus a bunch of meat. You definitely passed that by breakfast time at that point.
Yeah, because I would do the mass gainer was just you know I think there were like 50 grams of protein or something like that. Then it had a bunch of calories and stuff. And then
Yeah.
breakfast. I remember I used to do like the sausages, eggs, grits, with the biscuit and gravy. That's like a signature in the military. Like any military guy who's listening, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what this guy's talking about." Uh, and then I remember lunch was always up in the air. If it was like Salisbury steak or maybe it's chicken, you know, maybe we have steak and lobster, fish, even hamburgers and fish sandwiches. Because in the military we have like two lines. We have like regular chow, which is just like regular food, and then you have
Yeah.
fast chow, which is like fast food. And I would go through both lines because I would get the regular food and then go to the fast chow and just bring some back to my room. Just to get a little bit more extra protein in. Then I would have the mass gainer plus dinner chow, whatever they serve, which is pretty similar to lunch. I would have that as well. But I wasn't really counting anything. I was just like protein,
Eating
protein,
everything.
protein. Yeah, just get protein in. Like everything else, like I would eat salad, I would eat fruit, I would get my veggies. But my primary focus was just trying to get as much protein into my system because that's what we were taught back then.
Yeah. Well, that's what the muscle and fitness magazines and all the magazines talked about, is just get as much protein as possible.
Absolutely. And it would say like have red meat. I remember to this day it was they would tell you like only do red meat like once or twice a week, but then try majority eat like get your protein from eggs, chicken, and fish. So that's what I would try to do or follow, the most.
Yeah. That was our social media. That was the way to influence kind of the bodybuilding and the fitness community at the time.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, what made you want to transition into bodybuilding after you transitioned to veganism?
Truthfully, it was just a friend. I was at the beach one time, and I was pretty ripped, at six pack, and one of my friends was like, "Bro, like, excuse me," he just came up to me like, "Bro, like, I think you should do bodybuilding," and I was like, "Why?" Like, I was like, "Why?"
Everyone's
Yeah,
first reaction when they hear about bodybuilding is, "You want me to wear a Speedo and go on stage and flex?" It's like, "What do you want me to do that?"
yeah, because to me, I was just like, "Man, I'm not even that big. What are you talking about, man?" Like these. I'm like, you know how big a bodybuilder is? I don't even know how to get that. Like, because I had no idea
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
steroids, nothing. I was just like, I
Yeah.
have no idea how these guys even get that big. Like, as long as I've been training, I was like, these guys are humongous. And
Yeah.
he was just like, bro, like, there's different levels to it. That they have amateur and X, Y, and Z. Because at the time, I was doing personal training at the time, but I mean, I wasn't doing no sport. I mean, I was doing something more recreational. It was like I don't know if you have it in your area, but kickball.
Yeah,
We
I
we
heard of
have
it. Yeah.
Yeah, like the social sport. Like you play kickball was co-ed, and then after the games you go to a bar and drink. So that's what I was doing. I was just doing that because it was fun and it was easy to meet up with people. But yeah, he came up to me and just said like, yeah, there's amateur leagues, and he showed me a friend of his that was competing in the show that got like third place, and he's like, look, like I'm not trying to make fun of him, but you look better in him. And he showed me the picture, and I was like, yeah, he does. He sucks. Right? And he's like, see, he doesn't have a six pack, yo. And what was funny is that once he showed me that picture, I started doing some research, going online, and it's not, remember, Google wasn't at its best back then. Like this is like 10, 11 years ago. So Google wasn't like how it is now. Social media was at its infant stage. So like, you couldn't really find people if you wanted to. A lot of people were just posting their life, and
Yeah.
like pictures, it was no competition or nothing. People were just sharing things. Like there's no one didn't even know what to do with those things. Right. So like,
Yeah.
back then, so I remember I did find some coaches online, but they wanted like a lot of money. They wanted like 5K and stuff like that. And, at the time, I was in college
Yeah.
and going to school. I was like, man, that's a lot of money. Like for 12 months, like that's crazy. So, and here's the funny part. I remember going to a nightclub, and I met up with one of my friends, and she was actually dating a bodybuilding coach who's my coach now, even to this day. And when I met him in the club, he just like, hey, if you want to do the bodybuilding thing, just hit me up. And then after the club, thought about it a couple of days, hit him up, and then it kind of just started from there, because I was just like, let's try it out, let's see where this takes me,
Yeah.
and and I remember the first day training with this guy, and you had to think like, I'm a fitness trainer, I already have a six pack, and I was in the military, so in my mind I'm thinking I'm already this shit.
Yeah.
It was a rude awakening, man. like like the first bodybuilding leg workout. I'm like, what's the first
Oh,
workout?
that's
He's like, we're gonna do a
brutal.
leg day. Brutal. Like I remember he's
The
doing triple drop
volume.
sets, like lunges
Yeah.
till failure. I was like, bro, like this is crazy. He's like, go again. I'm like, again, I just did 15 reps. He's like, now do it again. Because we're doing triple drops. And I was like, and I
Yeah.
never did a drop set in my life. And I was like, what? And then he dropped it again. 15, what? And I'm like burning. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like I said, it was just a rude awakening, and it definitely humbled me. Like the first couple of workouts definitely humbled me, because I'm like, yeah, military training and just being a personal trainer, like training, like doing that type of training and the stuff I know, like athletic training, like as a bodybuilder, is a totally different level, and
Yeah.
but from the training, obviously you get adapted to it, you get used to it, you really understand the dynamics of it, and you start seeing crazy results when you stick to it and just be consistent. And that's what happened to me. I was just like, yo, like everything's growing, so it's
Yeah.
working. You know what I mean? So I just kept
Yeah.
going with it.
It's so much volume, but you get such a crazy pump because there's just so much blood flow driven to
Absolutely.
that muscle that you just like, yeah,
Mhm.
you can't walk because your legs are so jacked.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was so big on 8 and 12 reps, like for the
Yeah.
longest. Until like I started doing bodybuilding and started doing like these high repetitions and stuff like that, and I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. you know. So
Yeah. But that's what brings in the conditioning, right? That's what makes people
yeah,
look so conditioned.
hmm
So
absolutely.
you basically when you did bodybuilding basically during the era of like Phil Heath, Kai Green, and all these guys.
Yeah. hmm
So who did you look up to in your bodybuilding years when you started competing?
None of them. I still don't like because because
They're mass
because
monsters. That was the era of mass monsters for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I mean, I knew about them, but I like here's the thing. Like, I was never really like into the sport like that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, even when I read magazines, I just wanted to get jacked. you know, but it wasn't like I had an idol that I looked up to, like, I want to be like this guy. I'm like, I just want to be big, like just build some muscle, look good, you know.
Yeah.
So even when those guys were competing and stuff, like I never really watched them. I just focused on me, and that's it. Because my
Yeah.
purpose was different. Like even to this day, even when I'm doing bodybuilding now, I'm not trying to be like Mr. Olympia and stuff like that. Like I already know my limit with this sport, you know. So
Yeah.
because I know what it takes to get to that level. Like obviously now, like I know, like yeah, you need to get on gear. You need to
A lot of gear.
like yeah, a lot of gear, and you have to like and it's nothing against people who do it, but like I know if you, I feel like if you're going to do it, you better do something for real with it, not just like just to look good. You know, you better like take it somewhere for sure. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm just like, yeah, I don't see myself like taking it to that limit. Especially now, I'm like 38 years old, so I'm like, I think I already missed that mark already. But yeah, that's how I looked at it. I was just like, I just want to do it now, just for fun. It gets me out of trouble too because in my younger years I used to drink a lot and partying a lot, and like doing bodybuilding now, it's like a good recreational sport because it helps you stay
Yeah.
healthy. You know, some people might think it's not healthy, but it depends how you do it. You know, like if you're dieting all year round and just killing yourself, like of course, like that's not going to help when it comes to health. But if you're doing it for like positive things in your life, I don't see anything wrong with it. You know, taking breaks when you need to take a break. You know, take doing your blood tests annually or every 2 3 times a year. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've heavily focused on my fiber intake and micronutrients as well. Even when I'm dieting, I highly focus on that. So, for me, it's just healthier. It just helps with my lifestyle, so I can focus on things that's more important versus things that's really toxic in my life. You know,
Yeah. So how many competitions do you do per year?
it varies, but I think overall, I've already done since I've been doing the sport. I've won over 28 different shows, and I think I've
Nice.
done over 30 shows. You know, kind of know like there's a couple shows I lost. I just did not place at all. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
got my butt kicked. But I know it's 28 1, somewhere around 30, maybe a little bit more, 31, 32, something like that I've done overall.
Okay. So like roughly like 2, 3 per year because you've been at it for like a decade now.
If
So
you
yeah.
average it out, yeah. Because I mean, in the
Yeah.
beginning, in the beginning, I was obsessed. Like, after the first show, I did like five
It's
to
like I'm
eight
shredded.
shows
Let me
in
just
one
do
year.
another one. I'm
Yeah,
yeah. Just keep stacking
like
them.
a lot of numbers accumulated in the first like 2 or 3 years. I would just do them back to back. I was just like, oh man, let's do another one. Let's do another one. You know, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
loved it. I was obsessed. But then after a while, because I was chasing for the pro cards, like because I was doing the tested leagues in the beginning, and I was just chasing that pro card. So after that, once I got the third one in another tested league, then I was like, I started changing my focus to like the IFBB one because I was like, all right, like this is hard, this is
Yeah.
untested. You know, I'm going against guys who's on gear, like so. This it really, and it takes a lot because it's not like it's a lot of people think it's impossible, but it's not impossible. Like you can get the pro card as a natural. It's just
Yeah.
it's just extremely hard. Like
Yeah.
that's the only problem, and and it depends how you're trying to get it as well. That
Yeah.
that matters too because like for me, I know I know I could get it if I went to physique. I know I can get it,
Yeah.
but I don't want to do physique because I don't like physique. Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
do it as a bodybuilder. So, and that's why it's hard because I'm trying to do something that's like, you need a lot of muscle, especially
Yeah.
in NPC. You need a lot of muscle for to get that pro card. But last year, I got multiple second places at pro qualifiers, so I'm pretty close. 10 years
Yeah.
second place now.
That's
But
patience and consistency right there.
yeah. And and that's the thing, like it's not a rush for me too, because again, like once I get the pro card, then the thing is, it's like, what can I do after? And after
Yeah.
it's going to really slow down. I already know that. So, um, because there's only like a few shows that's like tested in the NPC as that you can do as I3B Pro.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of told myself, like, after that, like, I don't know what I might do. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
I'll still continue to do bodybuilding, or if I might retire and just do a different sport, change up the sport and do something different.
Yeah.
Because I know,
Come and
like
do an
you talked
Ironman with
about,
me.
well, that's the thing, because I know, like, you told me, you just, before we started, you were saying, like, you do the Ironmans and stuff. And truthfully, like, that was something I was actually thinking about, but maybe starting off with cycling first, and see where that
It's a
goes.
good
Because,
move. Yeah.
yeah, because I that's one thing I do like, and even to this day, I'll do like the spin class. I know, like, spin is not, it's different on the road. I know that. So
Yeah.
like,
A little
but
bit, but yeah, it's a
yeah,
great place to start.
yeah. But I do spinning a lot. I do at least, like, I try to get it in at least once a week. But but I feel like if I do let go of bodybuilding, that would be the next transition. Because truthfully, like, to be like the bulking and all this stuff, like, I don't, and it sounds weird coming from a bodybuilder, but I'm not the typical bodybuilder. Like, I feel better when I'm actually in a cut versus when I'm in the bulk. Like, I don't really
Yeah.
like, I don't enjoy bulking so much, because I feel like
So much food, man.
it's so much food and you're not as active, and like, I
Yeah.
can't, because I could do the cardio. The cardio is fine, but I feel better when I do the cardio. I can
Yeah.
even tell from my heart rate and everything. Like, everything's improved. Like VO2 max, all that stuff is. I have better vitals when I'm cutting and doing high amounts of cardio, versus when I'm just like eating and sitting around like a lazy guy.
Yeah.
Like, so, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could put more emphasis in the lifts, but I don't know. I feel like the cardio is just, it's healthier for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that feeling of like you feel like being leaner, tighter, more athletic. I feel like it's
Mhm.
like you feel better throughout the day versus when you're bigger and just getting that. You feel good during that workout when you're bigger, but the
Yeah.
rest you just feel heavy, slower. You're always so
Hmm.
full. It's not as
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Always, yeah, like the fullness. You always feel full in the stomach. Like, you don't feel, never feel empty, and So, but I
Yeah,
know, like, for the sport, it's necessary, because you know, like, when I got a couple second places in these pro shows last year, I and that was 2023. In 2022, I took about 6 to 8 months off, and that
yeah,
and that helped me with my placings last year. So that's why I'm like, I'm not jumping into the show quickly, because I'm like, yeah, if that helped from taking that off season, let me take another off season, bulk
and
up some
pack on more
more,
muscle. Yeah,
and then try again in 2025 and see how it goes. And like, everything in my mind is like, 2025 is the year I'm just gonna focus on just pro shows. Like, I'm just gonna do one nationally qualified. After that, pro shows for the rest of the year until I get it. Like, I already have my mind set up, because it's just like, in my mind, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not doing shows that doesn't, if I can't get a card. I'm
yeah,
only focusing on shows that I can get a card. I'm not going to waste money on other things.
yeah, for sure. So let's talk about nutrition. Like
Yeah.
how do you structure your nutrition when you're trying to do a muscle building phase and when you're doing a kind of fat loss phase? Just for, I know what your
Yeah.
answer is going to be, but for the people listening that are kind of new to like hearing bulking and fat loss cycles.
Yeah. I mean, excuse me. Nothing really changes. Only thing that changes the most is really the portion sizes. So, because when I'm cutting, I carb cycle when I cut. So there's certain, so if I'm in in a deficit day, like I usually do like Monday through Friday would be a deficit. So majority of that diet is a lot of vegetables, like a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables. So you're talking about tons of berries, tons of like spinach and kale, bell peppers, mushrooms, onions, garlic, foods like that. Because again, I focus on a lot of my micronutrients. I want to make sure I'm getting high amounts of fiber because that's what keeps you satiated in the diet. And then,
Yeah.
I have my lean proteins like tofu, seitan, and then also like because now we have it, the Kite Hill Greek yogurt. So I do that majority of the time when I'm in the cutting phase. Um, Rice and beans, I that's limited only on a refeed. I'll incorporate
Yeah.
that, but during the cutting days, it's mostly that just tofu, seitan, the Kite Hill yogurt, berries, and tons of vegetables. And then in the bulking phase, like it's the same stuff because I try again. I want to get my micronutrients in,
Yeah.
but then I incorporate more rice, more beans, more quinoa. Um, I even do cereals, oatmeal or raisin. It's not raisin bran, but it's like the Whole Foods version, which is like healthier and it's organic. I
Yeah.
have their version or the brown rice crisp cereals, more breads, and then obviously I eat out a little bit more frequently or do take out a little bit more frequently because
Yeah.
and use more oils and stuff like that just to try to get calories up. But
Yeah.
that's really the only difference. Like a little bit more foods, um, but then I'll incorporate more calorie dense foods, like I said, like breads and cereals, just to get the calories up because it's really hard to do with whole foods plant based. Like
Yeah.
it's extremely
It's a
hard.
lot of food.
It's so much food.
You're
So it's
just
like
chewing all day, basically.
yeah, and you get full. Like even before this podcast, I had quinoa with lentils, with sweet potatoes, tofu, and beans, and
Yeah.
that huge dish, like, and it's huge because you know how it is, like to get those calories
Yeah.
up. I'm doing like 300 grams of sweet potatoes and like like
Yeah.
200 and something grams of beans, and so like it's literally my plate is full. And once I finished eating, I had the itis. I was like, I need to take a little 15-minute nap because I was
I
like,
know the feeling.
yeah, I was like, oh, I need to take a little nap because like if I come here, if I try to fight it out, I'm going to be
Yeah.
very lethargic and not like funny or anything on this show. So I took a
Yeah.
little 15-minute nap and now I feel great. And you saw like you're drinking the coffee, so it's like
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, man,
Waking back up.
hmm
Do do you track like your calories when you're doing a bulk, or just kind of eyeball it and you know that you're kind of consuming enough just kind of by
I
like
still
being more
track. I mean,
ultimately?
I still track. I mean, I enjoy tracking. Um, it's not really an issue for me because I like
Yeah.
knowing what I get,
Yeah.
But I would say I'm not so strict on myself. So it's not like, oh, I have to hit these macros. Like I'm not super strict. I'm more relaxed. So if I go over fats, whatever. If I go over protein,
Yeah.
go over. If I go over nutrients, I'm not bugging about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You
because
don't
I'm
like the
not,
fat
I'm
loss
not,
phase.
yeah, 'cause I'm not even that focused in my aesthetics really, and especially this bulk. I'm not really focused on my aesthetics. I'm like, as long as I'm healthy, I'm fine. Like
Yeah.
I don't care about like the ripped six pack and all that stuff. I'm like, as long as I'm healthy and you can see something down there, that's all that matters. Like I can have a little bit of extra fluff. It's not a problem. Um, you know,
Yeah.
it's whatever.
So question for you, because a lot of people want to like look like you, right? They want to put on a bunch of muscle, but they're like, but I don't want to put any fat on while I'm doing a muscle building phase. Like what's your take on, again, we talked about getting a little bit of fluff. I think, it comes with the territory as you're
Yeah,
kind
I
of doing
mean,
that.
you could do it. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, it is harder that way too.
Yeah. Take a
And
while.
yeah, it's harder. It takes a longer time, and then I think mentally it drains you too, because like it does restrict you from like regular things like lifestyle stuff, you know. And for someone like me who does bodybuilding, I already know how restrictive it is when it comes to lifestyle when you're dieting. So I mean, I can
Yeah.
still have fun and stuff, like because I'm not these bodybuilders that I'll sit in a cave and don't talk to nobody. Like I'll still go out, but I would literally sit at a table. You're talking to a guy that I would sit at a table while everyone's eating and everything, eating good stuff. I'll just get like a little small salad and bubble water, you know, and that's it. I'm pretty good. Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm not gonna get fat eating a salad. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, so I'm
Be
not
hard.
like yeah, I'm not like crazy strict on myself. Like, I know what I can and can't do, and I know the
Yeah.
days when I can't go out. Like, if it's like if I'm like a week out, 2 weeks out from a show, that's why I'm like, sorry guys, I have to like really focus. I need to make sure my sleep is good. But if I'm 12 weeks, 16 weeks, like, yeah, I mean, I'll go out, I'll stay up late a little bit. You know, I won't eat late. You know, I won't eat heavy foods and stuff like that. I'll just have something very light, something very simple. Um, but that's the thing, you know, when you're bulking, that's the time to like reconnect and go out and have fun and not put so much pressure on yourself. Like if you want to have an
Yeah.
ice cream late at night, have the ice cream late at night. You know, like just like I'm not.
Live a little.
I'm
That's when
yeah,
you live
you
a
know,
little.
yeah. I'm not bugging about it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like yeah, and I know the consequences too. Because I know like yeah, if I have this ice cream late at night, my sleep's gonna suck, right? But I'm
Yeah.
bulking, so it's like it's like whatever, man. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you know I'm more
Yeah.
relaxed because it's like I have in my mind I have a timeline already. I'm like yeah, I'm doing a whole year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't have to. You know, it's all about building muscle. Like I don't have to like be so hard on myself. It's really the cutting when I get hard because it's like you're trying to preserve all. I mean you're in a deficit,
Yeah.
so you're trying to preserve all the muscle that you built from the off season, as well preserve as much energy that you have, so you can utilize it efficiently in that cut. You know,
Yeah.
because you don't want to get burnt out. Like that's the last thing you want is burning yourself out in the cut multiple times. You know, so
Yeah.
that's the only thing I would say about that. Is like you know if you're going on a bulk, like embrace it. Like it's easier. I'm not I'm not
Embrace the
saying
fluff.
yeah embrace it. You know I'm not saying like you know to get your body fat percent up to where you're overweight and obese because now it's counterproductive. Like it's not going to
It's
help
not
you.
bulking at that point. I think it's
Yeah,
letting
it's,
go.
not, it's definitely you're just fat, you know. So it's like,
Yeah.
so
Different.
it's
Yeah.
like now it's counterproductive. But you know, like I always say, put a limit on yourself. So even if you have to
Yeah.
recomp, you recomp. You're like, all right, I was too relaxed because my limit is at 12%, and then I gave myself a stretch to 15. So I'm like, all right, if I hit 12 that's when I have to start thinking about like the food. Like, all right, do I need to cut back? Do I need to clean it up a little bit? But if I'm fine how I look, then the stretch is 15. Now, once I'm at 15, that's when I know to myself, like, all right, I need to cut back a little bit because anything beyond that, now I'm like kind of pushing the envelope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know at 15, like I probably won't be that secure with myself. I'll probably be like, oh man, I'm pretty fat, man. Can you like
Yeah.
you know, even though
Yeah.
it's still healthy, I'll probably be like, oh man, you know.
Your
So
standards are
like
different when you compete of like what's
yeah.
considered like chunky. You're just like, yeah, I get it. 15, you're like, yeah, starting to, yeah, the
So
chest is puffy, the stomach is puffy, love handles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, you know, I'll cut back a little bit, but again, I have like a mark in my mind where I'm like, all right, I know how much fun I can do and stuff like that. And if I have to
Yeah.
cut back, I cut back because again, like at the end of the year, I mean, I don't want to be at like 20%, 25% body fat,
It's a
and
big
then
cut.
trying to cut all of this all the way down to single digits, man. Like I already know how hard it just get to single digits and then trying to push in the envelope to go even lower. Like it's super
Yeah.
hard. So it's like so I don't and I see and I train my clients and I see how hard it is for them. So like that's why I don't
Yeah.
want to
It's
do it for myself.
challenging.
Yeah, I'm like I
So
don't want to get that high and then try to spend all this time to get to single digits and then even lower. Just to have a limit so then like 15%. Even if I got 15, it's not. I mean, I could lower that in a few months. It's not a big deal.
yeah. So what do you, so obviously like people think that they see like those photos of like you and I or other people and they're super shredded and they think that you can just like maintain that all year round when you're super low one digit. Like
Mm.
what's your experience with, I'm sure you've tried to maintain a low body fat when you first started, because we all do, right? We're like, I look
Yeah.
so good, let me just try to maintain that. Like, would you, now obviously you're a little bit wiser in your experience because you competed a lot, like would you recommend that people trying to stay that low in body fat? Where do you hover for the most part when you're like trying to be
Um,
healthy?
I feel like it depends where you are in life and what and your purpose. So like with me, my purpose in the beginning was because I was starting a fitness business. I'm going online, so I needed a lot of media. And I needed to show people like, hey, like veganism is healthy. You can be ripped. You can be like you can look like me. Because I was building my
Yeah.
business, like who's going to train with a trainer that looks fat, and
Yeah.
and looks super fluffy, especially with all this competition out there now. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah.
and so that was my purpose, and I was showing people that. But at the same time, being that lean, it's not that it's hard. It's just that when it comes to my personal goals, that becomes hard because something has to become a sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
So what's the sacrifice was my personal goals, right? When it comes to bodybuilding itself, so that was the sacrifice until I was like, all right, I got my business at a good place. I think I made a point. I have a lot of pictures and media of me shredded. Like, I think I could do a bulk and like really show like people this other side of bodybuilding, show the other side of me now. I
Yeah.
made a name for myself already. So now doing that, that opens up a different crowd of people because people who follows you and for a long period of time, they're like, yeah, man, he's always shredded. He looks crazy. But then they're like, whoa, he's doing a real bulk. And now it's like to them, they're like, this is
Yeah.
new like this is new. Like we want to see like Korin on a bulk. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's me, because again, like, you know, um, I'm online. I run a business. Things are about business too. So that's just how it is. And
Yeah.
I feel, and I'm just being really transparent here. But I feel like for regular people, like it really depends where you are. Like I don't think it's necessary to be shredded all year round, especially if you're not in the fitness
Yeah.
business. I think that if you're not in it, like you're better off like doing the bulks and doing the cuts. But even with that, you have to have a goal too. Like, what's your goal? Like, when you're going on this bulk, like, how much muscle are you trying to build? Like, everything should be planned and structured. Because
Yeah.
I've seen it where people took bulks too far, where they're always on the bulk. I'm like, bro, you never shred.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not a bulk at that point. It just loses the
yeah,
title.
like we just like to eat, man. Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like so I would say
Yeah.
like you have to have a plan. You have to have a game plan and a reason. And as long as you have a game plan and a reason for doing these things, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Because I even help train other coaches when it comes to fitness business as well, and we kind of push them to get shredded. And the reason is
Yeah.
just because like the trainers that's coming online and want to present themselves, they're, they think they're healthy, but they're not healthy.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like the competition online and trying to impress somebody, it's just not. It's going to be hard for you to do that because it's like the fitness industry is so liquidated that anyone can sell programs these days. Like someone could do a bodybuilding
Yeah.
show, win a show, and then start selling programs with no education about nutrition,
Experience.
no experience about
Yeah.
working out. They're just selling a program of what they personally did. you know, but they
Yeah.
don't have no real experience when it comes to individuality, you know. So this
Yeah.
is why it's so liquidated. And when it comes to these new coaches, I tell them this. I'm like, this is why you have to kind of put yourself out there and stand out. But at the same time, you don't want to be fake either, you know. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's why I was like, you know, you want to have some type of transparency when it comes to, you know, promoting yourself and things like that. But I I was like, in the beginning, I would get pretty lean, pretty cut, pretty ripped. You know, show that side, show the side what's possible. And then once you have enough clients and you know you're already proving yourself, you got a good following, things like that, then you can start showing the other parts like bulking and things like that. Because that's what I did, you know. And
Yeah.
now I'm showing that part as well and being very transparent and showing people like, yeah, this is what I do, this is what I look, here's my weekly progress, you know, and talking about that side.
Yeah, beautiful. So yeah, Korin, thank you very much, dude, for jumping on the show today. For everyone listening, he does offer coaching as well. So I'll put his link in the description below if you want to check it out. He's an awesome coach. He's transformed a lot of people. He's transformed a lot of the coaches that are coaches online. So definitely recommend checking him out. Brother, I appreciate you for jumping on, man, and looking forward to us to record another episode at one point.
No doubt, man. Thank you for having me.